Hi. So out of everything that I have read and learned about bisexuality, there's been one thing that has influenced my thinking of bisexuality more than anything else, and that is what we're going to be talking about today. We are going to be talking about the 8 most bisexual animals on Earth. And do you know how humans tend to think of themselves as special, and bisexuals think of what they're going through as this unique thing, and the way we think of ways of getting around our bisexuality and getting what we really want anyway is somehow special? You're going to learn otherwise today. And we're going to start with the idea that bisexuals might sometimes engage in short-term relationships with people of the same sex to, get what they want and then peace out. An example of that in the animal kingdom will be number 8, the majestic lion, who have been observed getting into sexual bonding situations, getting it on with other male lions for a few days and then peace out, man. This has been observed in 8% of all couplings of lions, and out of lions and lionesses and lions and lions, 8% of them have all been same sex, and this is all in the wild. Lionesses have not been observed engaging in such behavior in the wild. However, in captivity, it becomes more of an orange is the new black sort of situation, and lionesses will engage in such pairings there. Number 7 on our list, humans. Why do I put humans here? Well, because 28% of all women on Earth identify as somewhere on the bisexual spectrum, whereas 7% of men do as well. When you add those numbers together and divide them by 2 to find out what percentage of the population, that ends up 17% of the population identifies themselves as being somewhere on the bisexual spectrum. But I talk about them all the time, so let's move on to number 6. And number 6, that human bisexual behavior where men will, get into relationships with women, and they go and they have kids and they raise them for a while, and then the guy goes, you know what? I thought I could do this long term, but I'm in love with Billy and I gots to go. Well, for number 6, I give you the mallard duck. The male ducks, 19% of the pairings are actually between 2 male mallard ducks. But they don't start out that way. The way they usually start out is they start out in pairings with female ducks. They lay eggs, and then once the eggs are laid, it's, sorry, I'm actually in love with Billy, in which case they form long-term bonds with the other male mallard ducks. Number 5, rams. We just got a new sporting team. You have to forgive me. LA Rams. Rams. These are unique situations. I'll describe it this way. Rams will often compete with other rams for dominance. When the alpha ram defeats a ram, that defeated ram will go off, and they will form fringe groups. And here's my interpretation of what goes on in these fringe groups. The loser comes and says, I hate him so much. And then the other rams go, yeah, me too. You too? Yeah, me too. Oh, he's just the worst. But you know who sucks? I suck. Because I lost. No, man, you're awesome. You're awesome. Look at you. Look at your horns. You're awesome. You really think so? Yeah, man, you're great. I would do you. Would you? Yeah. And then bow, chicka, bow, bow. These fringe groups will engage in sexual activity amongst themselves. And this will last for basically the entire season until mating season comes about, in which case the group breaks apart and never is reformed again, unless, of course, someone is challenged, in which case they go back into those fringe groups. Yeah, that kind of happens in humanity as well, so I find that very interesting. Number 4, Japanese macaques. otherwise known as snow monkeys. So the most bisexual gender in these snow monkeys were actually the women, the female snow monkeys. They will form something called consortships. These consortships will be when groups of female monkeys get together for intimate and sexual interaction, and these groups will last for a few days or a few weeks. And this also happens with male snow monkeys. But whereas the male snow monkeys, once it's all done, will go, yeah, this was fun, but I gotta go. The female snow monkeys will actually form long-term bonds, not in a sexual way, but like, it lingers, and they kind of still have bonded relationships with these other females. And although the percentage of females and males that engage in this activity varies, it has been observed in as many as 25% of monkey troops, which are, of course, groups of monkeys. Number 3. For number 3, I'm sure that you must have heard that in ancient Greek society, men of stature were encouraged to take on younger men in sort of like a mentorship sort of situation, which involved sexual activity, but did not involve penetration. We often think about that, we all do, and think, wow, that's really a unique time society, and only humans could come up with such an arrangement. Number 3, I give you the elephant, or more specifically, the Asiatic elephant, which means the elephants from Asia. Elephant males often live outside of the herd. And when they live outside of the herd, they will form bonds with other male elephants. And usually the dynamic is an older elephant and either 1 or 2 younger male elephants. And in these groups, they will engage in sexual activity. That is, until it becomes mating season, in which case the elephants all like, I'm up all in this place, let's see what we got here. And then finally, when they go back outside the herd, I imagine it comes to situations like, so you're back, huh? Suddenly I'm good enough for you now, huh? Go off and fool around with the women you want to, and now suddenly I'm good enough for you. So why are you making a big deal of this? You did it too? Yes, I did. All the males go off and do this, and then once they're done with the pleasure, they come back and oftentimes form the same bonds they had in these male and then younger male pairings. Number 2, have you ever heard of necking? In America, necking is kind of like a 1950s term for high school kids that get into their parents' cars and go out and make out at make-out point or whatever it is. Well, number 2 is giraffes, and giraffes actually engage in something called necking, where they take their necks, and it's kind of like a show of strength where they push on one another. And the giraffe that wins this feat of strength will oftentimes then turn around and mount the losing giraffe, not necessarily in a show of dominance, but it's been shown that male giraffes, this is kind of a flirtation sort of thing, and they become sexually aroused in this activity. This activity can happen between men and women, male giraffes and female giraffes, and between male giraffes and male giraffes, and female giraffes and female giraffes. And giraffes are so bisexual that 94% of all observed sexual mounting in giraffes occur between 2 male giraffes. And this bisexual activity has been observed between somewhere between 30% of all giraffes and 75% of all giraffes engage in bisexual activity. Now we're getting up to number 1, but before we get to number 1, I would like to throw out a couple of honorable mentions. These are species that I couldn't find percentages on, but they're clearly very much engaged in bisexual activity. The first honorable mention would be that of the penguin. oftentimes, when you hear stories about non-straight animals, the penguin comes up. And it's true, penguins are quick to form long-term bonds. Most of the time, the long-term bond is between a male and a female. But it has often been observed that penguins will engage in long-term bonds with other male penguins and other female penguins, even to the point where male penguins will create a nest and put pebbles in the nest to simulate eggs, or a pair of male penguins will find an abandoned egg and then successfully hatch that egg and then raise a child that's within it. And you might say, well, that's an example of homosexuality in penguins. Yes, but there's also been observed situations where, for example, there was one situation where a male bonding pair of penguins had been in a 6-year relationship, and they were living next to another burrow that had a male-female coupling in there. The male in the male-female coupling died, and the female penguin went out looking to see what she could get. And after 6 years of being together, one of the male penguins in that male pairing went and bonded with the woman. And I imagine some conversation like this happening, going, look, you knew what this was when we got into this. So I'm sorry, but I got to go. So there is bisexual activity there. And there's also been situations where penguins have engaged in coupling with female penguins to get an egg, and then those two penguins go and male penguins raise that egg. So although I couldn't find the percentages, penguins have obviously been observed to have multiple bisexual relationships. And also, for my second honorable mention, have you ever heard of something called the Sacred Band of Thebes? The Sacred Band of Thebes was something during Alexander the Great's time, which is around 350 BC. Some genius came up with the idea of taking men, putting them together, encouraging them to get into sexual relationships with other men, and to form bonds, real bonds with the other men, and then train them to become an elite fighting force and make them like the ultimate fighting force for your country, Macedonia. One would look at that and go, wow, that is creative thinking, and that's really interesting. And only humans could come up with something so unique as that. I give you the bottlenose dolphin, which as calves, which are baby dolphins, engage in sexual activities with members of the same gender, and that will continue for a while, and then drop off as they become adults. But as adults, both the males and females will stay attached to the calf they had a sexual relationship with for purposes of protection. So they will count on the people that they were, involved with for protection, and also the male pairings will help each other as adults find tail. Dolphin tail for sexual purposes. So bottlenose dolphins especially, but basically all dolphins are very much bisexual creatures. And having said all of that, now comes to number one, the most bisexual creature on planet Earth. We have the bonobo. The bonobo is in the chimp family, and they are amongst the closest, genetic relatives to humans. And it is said that 100% of all bonobos are bisexual. And they have come up with an interesting community sort of structure, whereas they use sexual activity to relieve stress and tension and anxiety, and as a form of excitement. So, for example, this has been observed where two bonobo monkeys or chimps have been in a cage and then in a zoo, and then someone throws a box into that zoo. the two chimps will look each other, see the box, and in my mind ask themselves, oh my God, that's so exciting. Are you as turned on as that box as I am? And the other chimp will, or the other bonobo will go, yeah. And then they would do each other, they would mount each other. And then after they have mounted each other, they have obviously calmed themselves down, and then I presumably think they look at each other and go, so you want to check out the box now? Yeah, let's check out the box. And they'll go and check out the box. Or in terms of females, there have been observed situations where a female bonobo will strike the child of another bonobo, and the other female will lunge at the striking bonobo. And what I imagine happens is this: the bonobo that struck will, fall back in kind of terror, looking up and say, oh my God, that was so scary. But are you as turned on by that as I am? And then of course the female bonobo will go, yeah, I am. And then they will rub their genitals together until they both, feel good again. And then that's it. So they use sexual activity as a kind of social lubricant to make sure their society doesn't have much violence, or, is always kind of like on a calm situation. So I hope this list has helped you to see that bisexuality is not only not weird, but it is one of the most natural things on earth. Humans are neither the most bisexual animal, neither are they the least bisexual animal. And every bisexual out there that says, oh, I've come up this way to kind of figure out how not to be bisexual, by, maybe using this excuse, or, hitting it and quitting it or whatever else, know that animals have mirrored this behavior for hundreds of thousands of years, probably before there even was a human species. And we are as much a part of society and the way it works and the way it functions as anything else out there. I hope you've enjoyed this list. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to help support the channel, check out Amazon.com, where I have my bisexual t-shirts. I have a whole series of them, including by Giraffe and a bunch of others. A link to it is in the description below. Until the next video, please subscribe. I don't do videos on a regular basis, but I do them more frequently. So if you want to know when a new video comes out, you have to click on that little bell next to the subscription button that lets you know when a new video comes out. Until next video, stay cooler, my bisexual friend. Stay cooler. Bye.